Imagine a society where there is no law. Imagine a society where there is no police. Imagine a society where there is no courts. Imagine a society where there is no prison. Everybody is allowed to live the way he like. Everybody is allowed to behave the way he like. Everybody is allowed to take whatever he feels that this thing is what he needs without consequence. What do you think the world will be? Do you think that man will survive? Do you think that mighty will not be right? This is actually what we have come here to do. On today's video, we are going to discuss the method of social control. This is one of the topics many people are finding it so difficult to pass. As a matter of fact, I'm making this video based on the request made by Mohammed and Haizat Ajani. Pardon me if I didn't get that name correct. Haizat Ajani. These two individuals have been calling on my attention to make video on method of social control. Behold, here is a video on method of social control. So one thing I will promise you is that at the end of this video, you are going to find clarity as per what method of social control is all about. It is not by my power, but by God's grace and also through your own due attention, you are going to find clarity on method of social control. So if you are a law student in legal method, legal system, and you are finding it difficult to understand the concept of method of social control through the law, I encourage you to watch this video to the end so that you'll be able to live with a full complete knowledge and not have baked knowledge. By the way, my name is Kingsley. As I'm making this video, I'm in my 400 level, and what I do on this channel is to help law students to be the better versions of themselves, to achieve their purpose, and to help them meet up with that societal expectation of becoming a lawyer, not just a lawyer, but a lawyer that knows his or her onions. So without further ado, we shall be kicking off the video. But before then, I encourage you to like the video and to subscribe in case this is the first time you are seeing me on the channel. Subscribe so that you receive a video which I often post here every Friday, Saturday, and then sometimes on Wednesday. So let us continue this lecture video. I hope you have liked the video. Please do well to like. I would like to begin by making it clear to you in your common way of understanding that this topic is not as hard as you think. The only thing that is just required is for you to crack that code of understanding so that when you go back to that your textbook you are reading from, you will be able to cope. Once you have mastered the plan, once you have mastered the purpose of that topic, that is the essence of YouTube video. I'm not your lecturer and I don't even intend to be one. So the essence of this video is that when you hear me speak, after you go back and marry your textbook, you will never be the same again if you watch me to the end and still go back to that your textbook, because your mind will open. You have cracked the code. That is what I call it personally. Once I am finding the topic difficult, I will look for a way to crack the code. Meaning that I will look for a way to read elsewhere or to listen to somebody above me or a textbook or YouTube or podcast. Once I watched or listened or whichever way, then I will come back to textbook and I will flow immediately. It's all about cracking the code, opening your wisdom, that your thought step in your head. Once you open it, every other thing is going to move. Now, when we say method of social control, or let's even begin with social control. When we say social control, what we simply mean or imply is the way the society maintain and control human behavior in order to ensure peace and security in the society. That is to say, the way by which the society control human behavior to maintain order in the society. If you watch my video on sociology of law, I told you that when we talk about sociology simply has to do with interaction of man with man or man to man. I'm not talking about just a man here. I'm talking about human being. So when we are dealing with sociology or anything sociology generally, we are referring to human behavior, interrelationship existing between human behavior, symbiotic relationship between elements in human form. That is what we mean by sociology. And now, relating it to method of social control, we are asking the question, or we are answering the question, what are the ways the society maintain order? What are the ways the society regulates human conduct? And then when you add it, remember the topic say method of social control through the law. Are you getting me? Now, I started by telling you what sociology means, interrelationship between human and human. I move now to say method of social control, thereby telling you that method of social control has everything to do with the way the society control behaviors, control humanity in order to ensure peace and order. Now, when you connect it, it's not yet over. We say method of social control through the law or by the law for some textbook. So when we relate to that through the law. What we are now saying is ways by which the society control human behaviors in order to maintain order using the instrumentality of what? Law. Are we together? If you are together, please tell me on the comment section that you actually got my point. So that is what we are trying to say here. We are just trying to connect, the way the society manage human behavior to ensure peace, to ensure orderliness, using what? Instrumentality of law. This is the first stage of wisdom to understanding this topic. And believe me, like I promised you, after this, you will not have issue with this thing. Just get this understanding and every other thing will flow. And because you are not writing to King's Advocate who may take pity on you, like you telling me this thing I told you, I plan to give you at least some level of what I will call authority, if you like, so that you don't argue sheepishly. If you have observed me, both on my live tutorial, both on my regular video, I told you people that a law student don't make assertion anyhow. So if you are making assertion, you must substantiate it with proof. So because of this, I'm going to, take deliberate efforts to give you something you can be hinging your agreement on. So you don't just go to tell your lecturer that method of social control is the way the society control the society, is the way the society control human behavior through the instrumentality of law. In as much as this sounds sweet and noble, it required power. It doesn't have force. So you must begin with authority. Now, looking at this thing, I will just basically highlight people who have made work on this, who have defined something, who have said something about this topic, and they are well recognized by your lecturer. So you can simply say that the term social control was popularized by Edward A. Rose. So this man was a famous sociologist, and he described social control as the use of institutions like what? Religion, morals, education, customs, and law. So this man, Edward A. Rose, says that method of social control is something that is achieved through what? Religion, morality, education, and lately law. Religion, I don't know if you are aware, but religion is one of the instruments that control human behavior. Any day they say there is no religion, I'm telling you, man is going to turn to beast. Like they will be feeding on each other flesh. But the only thing that is holding us a bit is not even law. Let me even tell you the truth. It's not law that binds us to obedience. What binds us to obedience is religion. For Christians, they fear heaven and they fear hell. For non-Muslim, they also fear, I don't know how they do their own, but all I know is that Muslims also believe there is a place like rest. So they are working towards that. Hinduism still believe that there is life after death. Buddhism rather still believe there is life after death. Our traditional society, our African omenana, say that if a man die, he must meet his ancestor, and if you have not behaved well, your ancestor is not going to welcome you. So these are the ways human beings are controlled. So apart from this fear of hell, believe me, nothing will stop you from raping everybody in your hostel. At least gentility will not save you from that. But when you remember that apart from going to court, you are going to face judgment. Apart from going to court, you are going to go to priest to confess for Catholic. These are the ways human beings are controlled, at least before then law comes in. So it was law that then cemented the whole thing. But before law existed, religion has been there. Religion is as old as men. So religion has been the only ways men are controlled. Then before the advancement of law, Roman Empire, and then developing of sophisticated legal system as we have it across all countries in the world. So now you have seen what I said about what Edward A. Rose, who made an assertion that method of social control as something that has been in place, which has been enforced through the instrumentality of religion, morality, and law lately. So education is another thing. These are remember, I'm not telling you story because I want to. I don't even have the time. But I'm telling you this story because these are the things you are going to write to on this topic. It's going to come as essay question, not problem question. So this thing I'm saying is still what you are going to repeat to your lecture. Once you said Edward A. Rose, you point out what he said. Say the same thing I'm saying. If you can cram me, quote me verbatim. So he said that education has also been a part of ways human beings are controlled, and you can't doubt it. You know the law through education. You were not born the law. You were born, and then groomed. From there you got admission and you are studying law, learning. So these are the ways the society ensure that people don't disobey. And remember, everything about method of social control ab initio I told you has everything to do with the way society are controlled. So we don't misbehave anyhow. Do you understand? Then another sociologist, and you will be conversant with this thing I'm saying, sociology. Here we are not dealing with Justice Nikitobe, Justice Opota. because this is a method of social control. Is an ideology that is borrowed from sociology. So if you're a person that has studied sociology before joining law, you will have advantage, or you should have advantage here, because this thing is your field. So whatever we say now, authority we are using as sociologists, at some point will come to law and the authority that surrounds it. So another person, William Sumner, explained that the method of sociology can also be achieved through customs and traditions. He was saying that before the coming of law, there has been a way human beings are controlled by customs and tradition. The first one by Edward Rose is talking about that religion has been there, education has been there, morality has been there, and then from there he talk about law. But this one is also saying that our traditions and customs has also been a good ways society has been controlled. And you cannot but agree with him, because actually before the coming of the Christianity and Muslim as propounded by Prophet Muhammad and that of Jesus Christ, who came to us through the missionaries and all whatnot, we have been doing our things, we have been holy. So you can't actually argue that it was actually Christianity that brought holiness to our people. Our father has always been, although they worship idol, but they do that with respect, not the same kind of idol they worship today, whereby a youth will be taking life, sacrificing this, sacrificing that. But they worship their gods that time with fear and with fearlessness. So through that time, they woke up every morning, they will turn to their sun, they will turn to their deity, they will worship them, they will encourage them to live a good life. So our forefathers were doing all these things, living in morality, even though they didn't know person like Jesus Christ as of them. So these are what Sumner is saying, sociologist is saying, that these are the ways human beings are being controlled. And now we shall be delving deeper into area that matters most, because we have the various methods of social control. And these are the things we are going to, just like if this thing comes to you as an essay question, the way I approach it, you can start with the definition, you can point these people, analyze what they said, relate it to you. See, what we give you, I keep saying it in my platform, wherever I come across law students, in my mentorship, both on LinkedIn and so many other channels I control. What I often tell people is that you must make effort, deliberate effort to appease your lecturer. And if you have come across my writing in LinkedIn or any other platform I control, you will see how I write. You know, most of you that watch me, I'm not seeing some anyway I've seen. But what I try to do is to catch people's attention. What I try to do is to catch my lecturer. The same way I write to my lecturer, because I know attention is limited. Attention is currency. So if you lack the ability to catch human attention, if you lack the ability to catch your audience or your reader, in this case your lecturer, you will not be able to make way. So what you should do is not to cram. Try to use your sense. Yes. If I'm sorry, I'm sorry, but try to use your sense. If you are writing this kind of thing, you just begin, be natural. What will give you A is not cramming, it's natural. Be ability to be natural with your lecturer. So try to narrate the story that this is what Sumner said, that this is what our society has been doing, that our forefathers have been doing this thing. All these things are what? To ensure social orderliness. And that is what social control is all about. Your lecturer will not only know that you have read, but you have assimilated it. And nothing makes any lecturer, and nothing can be more beautiful to any lecturer than to see a student who think outside the box, a student who reason like a human being, not just like a robot and AI, ready to cram and to pour. Garbage in, garbage out. That's not, if I'm the lecturer and I see any work pertaining to AI generated auto brain of human, I will immediately mark you 0. Because I will always appreciate somebody that is natural and that it shows me that you have something upstairs, not cramming, garbaging in and garbaging out on your paper, hoping to make first class and A and all whatnot. So by adding method and technique to this thing, we are just trying to see how law achieve control in the society. Remember that word we will be coming across as we progress to the types, technique and method. All those things means methods or ways the law achieve all these things. So the law does not just control people only in one way. Instead, the law can use different techniques depending on the situation at hand. So the law doesn't have a one-time approach that this is where it controls society. We have now moved from sociology down to law. I'm trying to tell you how method of social control work before we get to the types. So the law doesn't have a static method of controlling the people. It can use various means and various things. So a leading jurist, like I pointed out, remember I told you people are going to come to authority. Now a leading jurist says something about this topic that is worth knowing. The person is Robert X. Sumner. So it was this man, Robert X. Sumner, that identified 5 methods of social techniques. So later then, a man known as Farrar Dugdale. I've forgotten that name. Farara and Dugdale. Yes, Farara and Dugdale. So these were another individual that then expanded it from that 5 to what? 7 techniques. So remember, I told you people that Robert X. Sommer was the person that identified 4 methods of techniques we are going to consider. And then later on, Farara and Dugdale, sorry, then went ahead again to, add it up to 7. So I believe we have understood method of social control in the other context of definitions and what we are trying to learn in this topic. Now we are going to remember I told you that the law doesn't follow one approach to control human behavior. So it's those ways the law follow to control human behavior is what we are going to consider as techniques. So when you go to your textbook and see all those lines, we are just saying ways the law can use to control behavior, because one approach will not work. We have animal, we have cat, we have dog, we have beast, we have dove. So if the law was to be so much, punishing for people like dove in nature, they will suffer it. And if the law will not be cunning, it may not cater for people like serpent and scorpions. So the law use various means to take care of everybody. So whichever way you belong, whether you commit your own crime publicly or you gesticulate your own, the law has a way it will cut off from you. So this is what we say techniques. Now let us examine them. These 7 techniques are: number 1 is penal techniques, number 2 is grievance remedy technique, number 3 is private arranging technique, number 4 is constitutive technique, number 5 is what? Administrative or regulatory technique. Then number 6 is physical technique, and then lastly, public benefit conferral technique. Public benefit conferral technique. So don't worry, my learned counsel, let me just briefly analyze all these ones for you, because I know if this video is long, you will still click away. So you better I just save my energy and be brief with your explanation. So the penal techniques. Now when we say the penal technique, this one is the most obvious method the law control the society. So the penal technique control behavior by what? Creating offenses, and then number 2, by attaching punishment. This will then lead me to authority in section 36 sub 12 of the 1999 constitution. The authority in section 36 sub 12, as I want to feature it here, simply has to do with the fact that any crime that is not written down is not punishable under our law. Then if you go to section 36 sub 8, it's telling us that look, if somebody committed a crime today, you cannot make law tomorrow to cater for that offense he committed today. The law must take effect from that tomorrow it was made, or the day it was deemed to start, not retrospectively but progressively. Another authority that backed what I just said now in section 49 of the 1999 constitution, which said that legislation shall not account to make any law that will act retrospectively. What am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is that when we talk about penal techniques, we are much more focusing on criminal law. So criminal law is one aspect of law that punishes you when you commit a crime. One aspect of law that cater for offenses. One aspect of law that is there to sanction anybody who violates the right of another person. Now, I have made a video whereby I differentiated civil law and criminal law. So if you like, after this video, you can go to the channel or you go to the description box when you are done and click and watch it. So what this thing is saying, that penal techniques is the way the law control people, but in this case, not by begging you. In this case, not by giving you damages. In this case, not by just suiting you, sugarcoating things for you. It's by giving you iron hammer that if you kill, by virtue of section 33 of the 1999 constitution, if you kill, in as much as you have rights to life under this section, and you take another person's life, by virtue of subsection 2 of that section 33, you shall be what? Executed. Executing means sentenced to death, and your own life will be taken. Do you see? So this is how the law works. The law has given you life in section 33. Those who are wise will then take all this authority I'm citing, because I'm not saying it to suit you. I'm telling you the authority you can use. So the authority in section 33 gives each and every one of us life. But then subsection 2 of section 33 also made it possible that your own life can be taken, assuming you will become a beast and to another man's flesh and to another man's property. This is what we say by penal technique. The law is there to create offense. The law is there to punish. But not in all cases that criminal law will work. Some don't need, this kind of sanctioning. That is what I tell you, that these techniques are just the way the law can cater for the societal peace and ordering. Are you with me? Because Section 4 of the 1999 Constitution empowered the legislature to make order for the good ordering of the federation. Please, if you are not a Nigerian, I understand that Uganda people, Kenyan people, Sierra Leone people, and Cameroon people, I got a comment from you people. Please, just try a way to relate what I'm saying to your own constitution. You mustn't necessarily go away because I'm citing my own constitution. I'm using that as a point of contact speaking to you in your own constitution. What matters is that you know the particular section that are relatable, and then you can still use the same analogy. So the essence of Section 4 is that the legislature have made power to make law for the good ordering of the federation in order to achieve peace. Then Section 5 empower what? The executive to implement the law made by the legislature, which is for peace. Then Section 6 of the 1999 Constitution then gave the judiciary the leverage to interpret any law in interest of what? The same peace and ordering. So do you see that the law here is much more concerned about what? Sanctioning to ensure that obedience, is entrenched in our society. And just assume now what will happen if you kill and there is nothing like punishment, there is nothing like sanction. Do you think, what do you think the world could be? Imagine the terrorism, the level of terrorism act going on, especially in Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, and many other countries in Africa that are suffering, terrorism act. Upon say we have laws, upon say we have active, visible punishment that can, be that overwhelming. But you see people killing, you see people stealing, you see people doing all kind of heinous crime, and you be wondering what will happen any day we say there is nothing like criminal law. People can commit crime and then leave it at the mercy of heaven and hell. You see that even none of us will survive it. Now, another thing I wish you to know on this point, that in this case, what we are basically talking about is the way the law punishes. The punishment could be under criminal law. Punishment could be by imprisonment. The maximum of them all is death sentencing. Then it could also be by fine. It could also be by caning. Some offenses in criminal code, if you commit it, they will cane you mercilessly, so that they will format your brain. Some they can cut your leg, cut your hand, cut your anything. Then you also talk about what? Public duty. Like some sections of the criminal code, if you violate it, especially in southern part of the country, you are going to perform some public duty. That is when it has to do with many offenses. So when we talk about this method of social control, some laws are relevant. That's when you talk about criminal code, penal code, fire and robbery arm act, so many acts are carried, same-sex marriage act. These are just laws that are in place to ensure that penal technique, is in place to control human behaviors, to ensure that we don't live like a wolf on another man's flesh. About the purpose of penal technique, these are what you are required to know and talk about under that heading. You talk about deterrence, you talk about retribution, you talk about protection of the society. The purpose of criminal law, as I said in my former video, is what? Deterrence. I would like you to go and watch any video I've made on nature of criminal law and that of difference between classification of law. It will help you also to cement your understanding here. So the purpose of criminal law is deterrence. The purpose of criminal law is punishment. The purpose of criminal law is protection. And all these things just to ensure protection. Because assuming you kill and nothing comes as a consequence, what do you think will happen? I have said it already. Talk about grievance remedy technique. The grievance remedy technique basically focus on correcting wrong done to individual. So instead of punishment here, the law will be like, what remedy can I provide? How can I restore this injured party to status quo ante bellum? Meaning that how can I bring this party who have suffered injustice to a state he would have been, assuming that injustice didn't happen? These are the questions that grievance remedy technique seeks to answer. Under here, you talk about damages, talk about injunction, you talk about specific performances. These are ways the law basically come into shape. Now, to help you, what is required here is to talk about civil law. That is, I've made it. That's why I told you, those who are wise, I can't do everything for you. If you want to help yourself, after you still go to this channel on description page and go and check classifications of law, check about nature of law. You are going nature of criminal law and classifications of law, civil and this. It will going to help you to understand. Assuming you are still a stage, they don't know the difference between crime and criminal law and civil law. It's going to help you. I can't do that in this video, my lord. So I will take that objection and leave of this court not to say anything about that on this video. Now we are talking about contract here. If you commit any contract, that reminds me. No person on this earth have right to arrest you because you are owing him anything. If you are owing somebody, no law empowered anybody to arrest you, because what you have violated is what? paying back the money you borrowed, and that is contractual in nature. Contractual in nature, you don't arrest anybody, you rather take them to court, sue them, and they will take the court will adjudicate and then tell them to pay you back or give them damage. Like there is no, in civil realm they don't arrest you for anything. They don't arrest you except when you disobey the order of the court inviting you to come before them, or to refuse to honor court or injunctions and all those things. That's when they will order sheriffs and the courts, authority to deal with you mercilessly. But otherwise, nobody has any right to intimidate you when it has to do with civil matter. So that is what we are saying, grievance remedy technique. The law is here saying that everything is not about punish you, punish you, punish you. Everything is not about if you slap me, I will make sure you end in jail. Here, with the law is talking about, apart from that, what about your injured feeling? How can we ensure that your land that is being taken is not being taken? You can restore your land to you. Criminal law doesn't bother on issue of somebody is taking your land. Like everything has to do with punishment. But here, we're talking about rewarding you. So that is what grievance remedy is all about. It only applies in what civil matters. And then, without further ado, we just talk about example is breach of contract, negligence, land issue, trespass. These are what falling under grievance remedy technique. And then we move to the third one because we don't have much time. We talk about private arranging techniques. Now, pay attention. This is where it gets more confusing, especially for somebody in your state. When we are talking about private arranging techniques, the principle here is that the law will always allow individuals to arrange their own affair within the framework of law. So the law does not force outcome. It only sets rules and enforcement agreement here. Are you getting the point? Please, do understand something about private arranging technique. The private arranging technique principle is to the effect that the law will not interfere. Remember, these things are distinct. So if you are talking about penal, you focus penal and talk about the law operational there. So because you are now coming at arranging technique, you not go and throw penal away. There are different ways. For the fact that penal is operating the way doesn't mean that private arranging technique is not operating in its own realm. So you will understand it when you try to treat each of them separately. So private arranging technique, the law here is that the law will not interfere in what you are doing. That's why I say don't conflict it with other ones. So don't think now because I see the law is not interested in whatever you are doing, you then feel like, okay, why will I not commit crime again since the law is not interested? I mean, under private arranging technique, the law here is not interfering much in your affairs. The law is giving you freedom to do your thing. That's why we say ab initio that everything you are saying has to do with the way various means the law come into play. The law is using different means depending on situation at hand. Are you with me? Please, I don't want to remind you to like this video in case you have not done so, because that is ungratefulness. Please like this video. And now, when we talk about private arranging technique, the law here, some examples of this are what? Some examples of private arranging techniques are what? Contract law, wills. Let me use will for instance. If you are dying, you have the right to will your property to your girlfriend. You have the right to take your iPhone 16 Pro Max and say that if you die, your girlfriend must be the person to take it. And nobody, not even your parent that bought it, can question that. You have willed it, you have sealed it, you have written it down. Once you die, the law must ensure that that person you have willed your property is going to get it. So can the law here tell me the method of social control that are involved here? Can you tell me? So the method of social control that involved here is very simple. Just tell me in the comment section why I proceed. Because the law here doesn't care about what you are doing with your property. You see, private arranging technique, meaning the law is giving you freedom to behave the way you like. But the law sets procedure even at that, because one of the rule governing will is that you must meet up with certain requirement of a will. So it's not just enough to say that you are will your property. Did you follow the process? Because that person that is showing that the property you are will to him before he dies must show all the necessary requirement. Once that necessary requirement is met, the issue of whether you have the right to inherit that property again doesn't arise, because the law doesn't interfere once the procedure are met. So these are what we deal with private arranging techniques. The next technique is what we call constitutive technique. Constitutive technique. So these techniques basically create institution, right, and power. So without law now, many institutions will not exist. And we follow. When we talk about constitutive technique, we are just simply saying, what are those things the law creates? What are those platforms the law creates in order to ensure the maintenance of peace and order? Remember how we are following from penal to grievance, from grievance to private arranging. Now we have come to constitutive technique, meaning what are the constituted authorities, institutions the law still provide in order to ensure that these things are maintained. It's not just enough to say that whoever commits crime must be sentenced. You have to provide people that will sentence, which are the court, which are the lawyers. You have to provide again the police that will make the arrest, because without the police, the court will not be there to talk anything. Even if the court give order, it's still the police, law enforcement agents that will enforce it. It's not his lordship that will move from the ultimate chamber to go and enforce. In fact, the justice even doesn't go anyhow without conferral, unless they will take his life. So are you following me? The law is not ignorant of this. That's why the law have to make steps that control things. So when we now talk about constitutive technique, we are just talking about institutions the law has put in place to ensure that orderliness are maintained. A good example is the one I talked about, the National Assembly. By virtue of Section 4, both the National Assembly at the federal level and the state level House of Assemblies have power to make law. These are not born out of desire, they are born by the provisions of law. I pointed out Section 4 here. It is Section 4 that creates it. Section 4 is what? Constitution. Constitution is what? Constitution is law. And what are we treating? Method of social control through the law. Are you with me? Please like the video. Like if I'm doing well, just like the video. Oh, we also talk about companies. We also talk about universities. These are methods of social control. In this one, institutionalized. That is what education came as an instrument of what? Change. As an instrument of what? Education. Education came as an instrument of education. Yeah. So all these things are ways the law control our behavior, because a man who is learned will not misbehave. Now, the fifth one talk about administrative or regulatory technique. So when we talk about administrative or regulatory technique, we are basically talking about regulations, techniques that control behavior. We are basically talking about what? Techniques that control behavior in the realm of administrative capacity. This is where we talk about regulations, agency, licensing, and monitoring. This one is not far more different from constitutive techniques. Do you understand? But they are not still different. The other one basically has to do with, visible instructions that have been established. But administrative technique then becomes a kind of subsidiary to the constitutive technique. You see constitutive technique as the pillar or as the building. Then administrative technique becomes the human element that works in that building. If you say court, when you talk about court, then when you talk about the court sheriff, the judges, these are the people that work there. Again, examples of regulatory bodies. Let me use Nigeria for instance. You have NAFDAC, you have Standard Organization of Nigeria, we have Nigeria Broadcasting Corporation that ensure that you don't create radio in your room and start broadcasting. Otherwise, what happened to Nnamdi Kanu will happen to you. So you don't just behave anyhow. These are the bodies. Some Standard Organization of Nigeria, you don't manufacture substandard good and call it good, or else they will come and clack you down. Now we'll talk about the sixth one, which has to do with what? The physical techniques. The physical techniques. Please, when we say physical, we are not referring to physical element or physical building like this building here. See, I'm making this video. Physical in this case has to do with economics. I believe if you offered economics, you should know what we call physical policies. If you treated economics in your or commerce in your SS1, SS2 as an art student, you will see physical means, physical strategies, the law put in place to ensure that economies are running. So when we talk about physical techniques in the side of topic we are treating, we are basically talking about the techniques that uses taxation, financial policy to influence and control behavior. That's why I told you in the beginning of this video on the preamble that the law uses various means to control behavior. It's not every time the law needs to sentence you to death to punish you. The law can even go through tax. Of course, if in 2026 in Nigeria, you should be aware of what is reigning now, the tax law, courtesy to His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who has decided to tax us in our poorness. So you see the law going there. Now, what if I tell you now that law is even more harsher than sentencing you to death? There are many tax policies on companies. In fact, it can be weaponized at some point if you go against government. Like that's why I will watch and see how Dangote plays safe in every election. Because he knows that whoever wins, he must always, every election, Dangote must always have leniency or support to anybody that he believes will win, so that he will protect the interest of his company. Because a single policy by Tinubu or by P2B or by Atiku can nullify his years of effort, can nullify his business strategy. They can tax you and chase you out of the market, and you can't do anything about it. This is what we say physical policy. The law can control you through tax. The law, look at what Peter Mba is doing in Enugu State, for instance. You see how, although he's actually doing the work, but you see how he's taxing people. These are ways many people have gone off business because of what? Taxation. So you see how the law is influencing. You see how the law is pulling strings, even though you are not in prison, but you are feeling the pressure. This is what we mean by physical policy. If you can tell your lecturer this story from King's Advocate, relate it to what is going on in Nigeria, relate it to the recent tax law of 2026, relate it to Peter Mba way of governing Enugu State, relate it to Lagos State policy led by Babajide Sanwo-Olu, talk about Mike's strategy of reward and victimizing this. These are ways you appeal your lecturer. Tell him that you understand what you're saying. So this is what concerns physical policy. Now, what I want you to do is that I want you to go and follow up those videos we have made on the description box. And then this is me also telling you that this question is going to be essay question. So the ability to marry your understanding, whatever I've said here, with that of your textbook, and then cite some certain things, provisions of law I've cited, is what will give you an edge. I want you to share this video with your class group, please, so that they learn, so that they benefit. What use or what does it profit you to just watch alone and feel like you are passing? You are reading secret novel that you don't wish other people to learn what you are learning. You don't grow that way. If you have heard my knowledge, you will not be there watching. So I also encourage you to share with others. We'll rise more in life by lifting others. However, if you have not watched that classifications of law, nature of law, click this video showing on your screen so that you'll be able to click it and watch it. So I will see you in those videos. Remember to share with your classmates, please share.